right, here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. We're coming to you from Super Bowl Radio Row, downtown San Francisco from the Moscone Center. We've been here all week. We'll continue to provide you coverage right here from San Francisco in the lead up to Super Bowl 60 between the Patriots and the Seahawks. As for what we're getting into on today's show, I've seen you all down in the comments section saying, Chase, we need some draft talk. We're going to do that here on the program. Going to react to Mel Kiper's first 2026 NFL mock draft. Who does he have the Philadelphia Eagles taking? We'll get into that player. We'll do some analysis and give you a look at who could be going to the Eagles in April. But let's begin here. I've been walking the streets here in San Francisco. A lot of people coming up to me saying, Chase Sr., Chat Sports, love the content. Philadelphia Eagles Now, go Birds. If you haven't subscribed, do so right now. I mean, we're kind of a big deal here on YouTube. And here on the show, we're going to give you the latest news, rumors, and analysis, trades, free agency, draft content, and more. We want to hear from you because this is a great community that we also have right here on Eagles Now. And that's a big reason why we're north of 144,000 subscribers, reaching millions of people every single month. And more subscribers equals more videos. So lock us in, hit that sub button, and in advance, we always appreciate your support. All right, let's begin here with just giving you a breakdown of who Mel Kiper has going where with his first mock draft. And we'll continue to ramp up our draft content here on the show in the lead up to the NFL Combine at the end of this month. We'll be in Indianapolis going into March. And then, of course, with the NFL Draft coming up at the end of April in Pittsburgh. So, no surprises here. Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback out of Indiana, after winning that national championship, going to the Raiders with the first overall pick. Clint Kubiak, Seahawks offensive coordinator, is going to get that head coaching job. He pairs up offensive mind with his young quarterback. Arvell Reese, the pass rusher out of Ohio State, to the Jets at 2. Francis Mouaga, the offensive tackle out of Miami, to the Cardinals at number 3, even though they need a quarterback, but it's a thin quarterback class. David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, good run to the college football playoff for the Red Raiders, to Robert Saleh and the Titans at number 4. Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, to the Giants at number 5. Him opposite of Malik Neighbors. Are you kidding me? Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah, to Cleveland at number 6. Reuben Bain Jr., I would love him for the Eagles, but they're picking too late to get the pass rusher out of Miami. The Commanders there at number 7 taking him. Jordan Tyson, another wide receiver off the board. Wide receiver Arizona State, big-bodied guy, to the Saints there at number 8 for Kellen Moore. Jeremiah Love, I like this fit, running back out of Notre Dame, to the Kansas City Chiefs, inside the top 10 at number 9. It's weird to see the Chiefs inside the top 10 selections. Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. I'd also love him for the Eagles ideally, to the Bengals there at number 10. They need to get better on defense. Keldrick Falk, unbelievable length and size, defensive end out of Auburn, to the Dolphins at number 11. He pairs up with the defensive-minded head coach in Jeff Hafley, who takes over for Mike McDaniel. Sonny Styles, a linebacker out of Ohio State, to the Cowboys at number 12. Look out for Nakobe Dean as an option for Christian Parker after he took that DC job. The Cowboys desperately need to get better at that second level of the defense. And then you look at picks 13 through 16, Jermod McCoy, cornerback, Tennessee, to the Rams there via Atlanta because of that James Pierce trade. Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver, I love his game, out of USC, to the Ravens at number 14, another explosive playmaker for Lamar Jackson. Jesse Minter, the head coach, and Declan Doyle, the 30-year-old offensive coordinator, formerly of the Chicago Bears, now going to be calling the offense for the Ravens. Quinyon Mitchell, another player who I would like for the Eagles. Tight end out of Oregon, to the Bucks there with the 15th overall selection. Second quarterback off the board, it was Mendoza at number 1. Ty Simpson out of Alabama, the second quarterback, dropping all the way to the 16th pick to the New York Jets. So they get a quarterback here. That pick via Indianapolis from that Sauce Gardner trade, but this is the byproduct of this draft class being very thin at the quarterback position. 17 through 20, Vega Giovanni, guard out of Penn State, to the Lions at number 17. He's so physical and a mauler, fits what Dan Campbell looks for. Mansour Delaney, the cornerback, LSU, to the Vikings there at number 18 for Brian Flores. C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia, to the Panthers at number 19 as they continue to build up that defense. Akeem Mesidor, the defensive end opposite of Ruben Bain, who caused a lot of havoc for Fernando Mendoza, Curt Cignetti, and the Indiana offense in the national championship game. He goes to the Cowboys at number 20. I like that pick for Dallas. Denzel Boston, Washington wide receiver, to the Steelers at number 21. They need to improve at the wide receiver position. Peter Woods coming off a down year, but he's got a lot of ability. Defensive tackle out of Clemson to the Chargers there at number 22. Avieon Terrell, the corner out of Clemson, to the Eagles there at number 23. More on him in a moment. Zachariah Branch, just an electrifying playmaker, to Cleveland there at number 24. Out of Georgia, but he spent the last couple of years before that under Lincoln Riley at USC. Caden McDonald, defensive tackle, Ohio State, to the Bears there at number 25. Chris Brazil, the wide receiver, Tennessee, to the Bills at number 26. Caleb Lemieux, another offensive tackle out of Utah. They've got a couple of good ones, to the Niners with the 27th overall selection. Caden Proctor, offensive tackle guard, Alabama, to the Texans at number 28. They need to do a better job of bulking up that offensive line and protecting C.J. Stroud. Look at Proctor as an option for the Eagles at number 23. And then finally, Monroe Freeling, offensive lineman, Georgia, to the Rams at 29. Caleb Banks, defensive tackle, Florida, to the Broncos at number 30. Cassius Howe, outside linebacker, pass rusher, Texas A&M, to the Patriots at number 31. And then Brandon Siss, the cornerback, South Carolina, to the Seahawks there at number 32. Of course, 31 and 32 could flip-flop depending on which team wins. Super Bowl 60 coming up on Sunday, close to here. Levi's Stadium, Santa Clara, down the road here from San Francisco. So, of course, Mel Kiper has Avieon Terrell going to the Eagles with the 23rd overall pick. And you take a look at the Eagles' draft needs here, in my estimation. They need to get better along the offensive line. And I think that might be point of emphasis number one for Howie Roseman this offseason. Jordan Mailata was injured, not the same player at left tackle. Landon Dickerson hurt, was bad all year at left guard. And then you had Cam Jurgens at center, who was getting bulldozed at the center spot. Tyler Steen was fine, but is he good enough to be the future right guard for this Eagles team? And then Lane Johnson, his status is up in the air going into 2026. Is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? So questions all along the offensive line for the Eagles, and we know that Howie Roseman loves to invest there. Edge rusher I'm going to put there, with the Eagles getting more cap space, with the salary cap going up. Could they bring back a Jalen Phillips? If not, a lot of their edge, fringe roster type edge rushers are going to hit free agency. Azeez Ojulari, Obu Okoronkwo, Josh Uche, and so Brandon Graham, he might decide to retire. Maybe he could come back. He could play defensive tackle. And so depending on what happens there, the Eagles could have Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to put edge rusher there. Cornerback for the purpose of today's show, plus I think it's a big need. Tight end and wide receiver. What happens with A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert? And then the safety position, too, because Reed Blankenship is also a pending free agent. Now, here's what Mel Kiper Jr. had to say about Terrell to Philadelphia here. Quote, Philadelphia could go a lot of directions, especially if it moves on from wide receiver A.J. Brown this offseason. But one spot has received a lot of attention, and it's actually on defense. The Eagles tried to fix the corner 2 position opposite of Quinyon Mitchell with Cooper DeJean in the slot with the trades of Jaire Alexander, Michael Carter II, but neither move did the trick. Carter barely played down the stretch. Alexander stepped away from football in mid-November. Terrell, though, would be a reliable answer. He broke up 9 passes and forced 5. Yes, 5 fumbles in 2025. Terrific in man coverage, and coordinator Vic Fangio had his defense in man 55% of the time this season, 3rd most in the National Football League. What do the Eagles look for at the corner spot? A fit like Avieon Terrell. And I think that Terrell would really fit this defense, especially under Vic Fangio. But even if Fangio does decide to retire, that's not the belief from everything that I'm hearing in San Francisco from the site of Super Bowl 60. But even if he were to step away, I still like Terrell lining up alongside Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. What are some components to the games of Quinyon and Cooper that have really stood out in 2 years? And this past year, they were named first-team All-Pros partially for these reasons. They have really good instincts, a great feel, they have good ball skills, and they can make plays on the rock, whether it be dropping back in zone or playing man. And the Eagles love corners with ball skills. They also love and preach having players who can be disruptive in generating turnovers. That's exactly what Terrell does. Now, one of the potential concerns with him is that, yes, he's a little bit of a smaller corner. So would the Eagles or other teams in the pre-draft process be confident in putting him on the outside? Would they put him on the inside? Cooper DeJean said after the year he'd rather play that slot nickel role, and I like that for him, and I like it for this Eagles team because he's a Swiss Army knife. And being in the slot inside allows him to rely on his diversity and the plethora of skills that he has, the multiplicity that he has in his game, and how he's able to impact the game in a multitude of ways. When you put him on the outside, sometimes he's on that island. You can't blitz him from the corner. He can't make those plays against the run. He can't go into the flat, make those great tackles. He can't cover running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. That's what he's been doing for this Eagles team, making him a very unique player on defense and one of the best overall defensive players already across the National Football League. Of course, Terrell would replace Adoree Jackson. And Adoree Jackson is set to be a free agent. A little bit older. He was drafted in the first round all the way back in 2017. And let's pose this question, right? Was Adoree Jackson bad in 2025? No, but in taking Terrell or making an upgrade there, making a move there, I do think that Philadelphia can get better at corner two opposite of Quinyon Mitchell compared to what they had with Adoree Jackson. And I think that when Adoree was lined up against some really good wide receivers this past year, that's when he really struggled. And how he graded out, you can't always trust the Pro Football Focus numbers, but I do think this paints a pretty good story that he was okay, not awful, but not great. Overall PFF grade 54.6, PFF coverage grade 54.1. He did have 11 pass breakups. Again, the Eagles really value that, and that goes to show you his experience and abilities to make plays on the rock. He had one interception as well. Now, outside of Adoree Jackson, this is where the Eagles are in a good spot. And this is why the Eagles don't necessarily need to take a corner with the 23rd overall pick if they go best player available and there is a Caleb Downs or a Caden Proctor or a Kenyon Sadiq there who might be the BPA player on their board, and they'd rather go that route instead of Terrell. Because why do I say that? The Eagles are firmly set at the two corner spots at the very least because they have the young ballers in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, really good foundational pieces for this Eagles defense going into 2026 and beyond. Now, coming up next, I told you we'd give you great analysis and a scouting review of Avieon Terrell. We're going to do that here in just a moment. How did he fare this past year and throughout his Clemson career? Stay tuned for that. Continue to hang out here with me. But this is today's poll question. Let's hear from you. Would you like the selection of Avieon Terrell? Give me a yes or no down in the comment section right now. Share your thoughts with me. Now, today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, emanating live from Super Bowl Radio Row, is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Look, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. What's also awesome about this, you can find your community on PrizePicks. With the new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow PrizePicks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. Join the millions of users. Sign up today for America's #1 sports picks app. And how about this? This week, PrizePicks has a special max discount for the big game. Live on the app right now. Drake May just needs one passing yard for the max discount to win. Just add another player to your lineup, and if your picks hit, ladies and gentlemen, you can cash in. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So what type of player would Philadelphia be getting in Clemson cornerback Avieon Terrell? Ball skills, speed, athlete, bloodlines. His brother, A.J. Terrell, one of the top, I'd say 15, 20 corners in the National Football League, playing for the Atlanta Falcons. In 2025, here's how Terrell fared in what was a down year for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers, but Avieon Terrell played really well. This is a reason why a lot of people think he's going to go in round one. 48 tackles, 4.5 TFL. So I do think that at the next level, he can play on the inside if the Eagles like him there, or if he doesn't work out on the perimeter, which obviously would be the preference. He did have 3 sacks too. So just like he has that skill set that is very vast, Cooper DeJean does as well. And then you see the 9 pass breakups and the 5 forced fumbles with 1 fumble recovery. That peanut punch is alive and well. His coverage numbers, he allowed a completion percentage when targeted of 56.6%, 344 yards given up, 3 touchdowns. Again, the 9 PBUs, no picks, a quarterback rating of 95.2. What I also like about Terrell is the consistency in which he's played with in the last 2 years. He had the 4.5 TFLs in 2024 with 14 PBUs, 2 picks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. He has a knack for making big plays that can change the complexion of the ball game. And then this past year, once again, disruptive. And it's not just Mel Kiper or myself who thinks that Terrell is a good fit for the Eagles. Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, has Terrell going to Philadelphia as well. Cool story. Daniel Jeremiah was one of the reasons that Jalix Hunt was on Howie Roseman's board a couple of years ago. DJ, who used to work under Howie Roseman, really liked Jalix Hunt, and then Howie ended up going to DJ and said, can you take him off your top 150, because I don't want any other team to see that, and then they take him before us, and he was a surprising pick to many, including yours truly, in the 3rd round of the draft a couple of years ago. DJ on Terrell. He teams up with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell to give the Eagles, how about this, the best young secondary in the NFL. The former Clemson Tiger can play inside or outside. Another chess piece for Vic Fangio and this Eagles defense, and another young player to load up on that side of the ball. Yo, don't forget to give me a follow on X, Instagram, TikTok, at Chase_Senior. We're reaching millions of people every single month here on YouTube. I'm doing the same on my social media pages. I'm also on Facebook, Chase Senior Chat Sports. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for elite daily and year-round coverage of the EAGLES Eagles. Catch you soon.